Having said that, and I also agree with what you said about the base layer of the Constitution being the problem, because I feel the same way about money. We won't get into that today, but I just want to draw the parallel that you fix the money, you fix the world. So there's no point discussing all of this when the money is all fake and corrupt and all that. So what exactly is the correct movement, and how is this going to change it?
Okay, so the correct movement, correct actually stands for Constitutional Reform and Rectification for Economic Competitiveness and Transformation.
I thought that was clever, by the way.
Thanks, man.
But yeah, it was like, when you explained it like that, I thought, that's a perfect little acronym. Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that when they look at what it is we stand for, which is constitutional reform, there's a reason for it. We're not just, we'll change it for the sake of changing it. No, we're changing it for the sake of making the country more economically competitive and in order to transform the country for the better. Because, the problem is, for the longest time, charter change, which is actually an only in the Philippines kind of terminology, a lot of the times it has been demonized. But the correct term, really, the international term, you watch all these international news channels and all that, you'll never hear them say charter change. You'll hear them say constitutional reform. And I thought it's necessary for us to sort of educate people on why it's necessary.
Yes, why is it necessary?
For the longest time, a lot of Filipinos have been brainwashed to think that changing the constitution is so that you will have term extensions,
Okay, let's use a real world example that they can relate to. For example, foreign ownership is a huge part of what you talk about,
Yes.
FDI. Foreign direct investment. I'm not trying to challenge you because I know a fraction of what you know, probably 1% of what you know. I just want to play the devil's advocate so that I can learn. I really want to learn what you're trying to do here. 40% is the current FDI, right? So they can only own a maximum of 40% of a business here. Some might make the argument, especially if you're talking about buying land and stuff like that. Aren't they going to price the Filipino out? Aren't some countries like Australia complaining about the Chinese coming in and buying all their land, and now the locals can't buy their own land? What do you do to prevent that?
What we in the correct movement are actually talking about when we say, number one, economic liberalization, which is to remove all the anti-foreign investment restrictions that are found in the Constitution. What you want to do is to say, we'll take them out of the Constitution, but we can still have restrictions and regulations in legislation and in policy. So they don't need to be in the Constitution. In fact, I think that's the biggest problem of the Philippines. We are the only country that has done this weird and crazy thing of putting all these anti-foreign investment restrictions in the Constitution. Nobody else does that. The reason why I say it's crazy is the Constitution is something you can't change. You cannot tweak so easily. But if you put into law instead these little restrictions, you can fine tune it when you need to. So for example, if we say, all right, we're no longer going to make a ban on foreigners owning land, for example, we can then have laws that say, wait a minute, we're not going to allow just any foreigner to own land. We're going to say, well, first of all, are you a foreigner who owns a business that creates jobs for Filipinos? We can have a law like that. And then we say, now, if you create enough jobs, for example, well, hey, you're in the welcomed group.
Okay.
We can always have something like that.